as a community, we're not really exposed to real education about wealth and money. And when you look at all the stats, we're always in the bottom, but we have a lot of wealth, we produce a lot of wealth, but we're consumers. So I want to put a stop to that. I want to be able to hand my children to be able to buy assets, and I can help them and change that narrative.
So thank you and welcome to the long story short version 2, because the first version was in your office,
Right.
isn't it? The
Yes.
first version was in your office. The second version, we're in the long story short studios, my
Yeah.
couch, my
Good.
living room,
Nice.
you know,
Nice.
my living room. So welcome to the long story short
Yeah.
podcast. It's nice again to see you. And I am looking forward to recording your journey, recording your long story short.
Yeah. No, I'm excited, honestly.
Mm.
So thank you for having me.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And you know what? Before I go on, we need to say thank you to Anthony Lindsay, right?
Yes. Yeah. It
Isn't
would have
it?
happened otherwise. So you made the introduction. So no, absolutely props to there.
Yeah. Thanks for Anthony for connecting us two together. So, one of the questions I always tend to ask my guests at the beginning
Yeah.
is who they are.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
who is Richard Ansah? And I love your name, Ansah, Richard
Answer.
Ansah.
Answer. Answer.
Ansah.
So who am I? Sounds like an interview question. I'm like, what do I say?
Isn't it?
But I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a founder of a company called Once Wills and Trust Limited. We help um, business owners who love their family to create generational wealth. We do that through education. So I'm very passionate about that. And also, yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell.
Like, if we go way back in time, where did it all start for you
So you mean as in my
in
business?
terms of
Or,
before the property purchases, before the big career moves? Where did it all start for you? Where where
so,
where did you grow up?
so I grew up I was actually living in Hackney, uh, Amherst Road, Stoke Newington.
You're joking.
Yeah, that's kind of the roots. And even when I drive past there, I show my kids like, oh, that's a flat, Glendown House, right at the back of Downs Park. Um, and then we moved to North London probably when I was about 8 or 9. Um, and so it was a big, just a big change. It's just my mum that raised me, my two sisters. So I'm the eldest of three. Um, well, I didn't share with you actually. So you'll probably be a bit surprised. I know it's about stories, but my mum actually passed. My mum passed just over a month ago. So
Okay.
we're kind of going through that kind of grieving process, and so just understanding about just reminiscing about the past and growing up and dealing with bereavement and all that type of stuff is interesting. But um, yeah, the very strong woman, lots of values, and she's from the Caribbean, from Jamaica. Um, so it's a place called St. Thomas. But yeah, she raised me, must a very determined young lady. So bought her first house. So we kind of see the values of that and being independent and remembering this kind of, she says the manners will take you around the world. So that's kind of like how I grew up. And then my dad's from Ghana, so I kind of got the best of both worlds, Jamaica and Ghana. So very, the household is very much like, work hard, work twice as hard as everybody else, focusing on getting a good job, getting good grades. So I was a bit of a boffing, kind of just very focused, being the oldest child and wanted to make my mum proud and things like that. So that's kind of how it all started out.
Sorry to hear about your mother,
Oh, thank you.
firstly. Um, and I'm thinking back to your childhood, born and raised in Hackney, like myself. My mum raised me more, do you know what I mean? and similar childhood in terms of having a one parent family in that sense, even though I saw my dad every other second week.
Yeah.
But thinking about that time, how did money and, making those career moves, how did that influence you? Do you know what I mean? Like growing up, I don't know for yourself if there was a lack of finance. Do you get what I mean? And
Yeah.
did you see mother doing two, three jobs? I don't know. So share some thoughts about that.
No, money was tight. I'll be honest. It was obviously just mum working, and she really strived hard, like to get on the ladder to buy a property, and um, she'd work. I think in the early days, because she had a factory job, but it was very high paying. And then she was made redundant, and then it's like no one pays that kind of money anymore. And then so she's working as a nurse and working long hours, and um, raising my younger sisters. So I used to pick them up from school and um, cook, get dinner ready when she got back from work. So I learned quite young how to boil rice and cook corned beef and pilchards. That was kind of our staple during the week until she wanted to do her nice rice and peas. And then so yeah, I remember money was always kind of tight, and I remember Christmas time when I first was able to get a job because I played a lot of basketball, and she couldn't afford to give me any pocket money to like travel to play or buy my equipment and stuff. So I couldn't wait to start working. Um, so one thing I felt was really a big deal was like to keep the fridge full over Christmas. Like, oh, we've got a full fridge, so we're loaded, right? That's how it felt to me anyway. Like, you know, and I remember the days of walking from um, so probably like a good 45-minute walk. The plastic bags were digging into your fingers. We couldn't catch the bus. There was not enough change in a heavy basket. And I mean, my sister's in the trolley, her pram. So you got shopping bags on the pram. You're carrying a couple of, heavy bags and walking it back home with the shopping each week. So I used to hate that, but it was like, well, look, what can we do? Um, so yeah, so I have memories of, but we made it work, right? That was, my mum always says, you got to learn to, was it stand crooked and cut straight and all these wonderful terms just to kind of get by. So we learned about grafting and working hard, but she always allowed us to, you know, have values and respect and just not compare ourselves to others and just doing the best you can. So it was good. We had a very happy home.
Mm. Because I always think about, that's why I like to find out what the foundation is with regards to the wonderful people that I speak with. Because I always believe that the foundation and what they're doing now, there's some way interconnected. Do you
Yeah.
get what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
grew up, my mum had a stall on the waste in Hackney,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And I see my mum's entrepreneurial spirit and I see that in myself. Do you get
Okay.
what I mean? But I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what I was experienced to or what my mum was really showing me about life, but I really took that on for myself, type of
Yes,
thing. So I believe that our foundation really has a connection to where we are now.
definitely.
So, you are a multi-entrepreneur. There's no joke.
I don't know about that.
You understand? Isn't it, Richard? You are a multi-entrepreneur, and you built a thriving business
Yeah.
and you saw it all unravel. Talk through that time in your life.
So yeah, so I set up a two businesses actually. So one was a mortgage as a mortgage broker, so I had a mortgage business and employed staff, and this was in the glory days when property was just soaring. House prices just start to go crazy. It's about 2003 onwards, I think it was. Um, and then I also set up a property business to buy properties. So me and my wife, we had bought quite a few properties at the time. And the plan was, buy loads of properties, hold them for 7 years, sell them because typically property prices will double between 7 to 10 years. That might be different now. And then I thought, yeah, I'll be a millionaire and that's it. I can live life, so to speak. But that didn't quite work out how things planned. So people may remember the crash of 2008. So that hit us quite hard. So that both the mortgage company had to shut down. 'Cause I couldn't run any more business. It was very much like closed temporarily closed for business. Um, and then the property side of things just went absolutely pear shaped. So that was really kind of the start of my, I say that's kind of the start of my journey in terms of entrepreneurship. But even though I was running a business with the mortgage company, it learning curve was really hit very hard um, at that stage. So because things were just very different, and you have to figure out like how you're going to survive and get through. I didn't know about a recession. I didn't know about a bubble. I didn't know about house prices kind of just crashing and banks not lending anymore. And so I did lots of research in that, but they didn't certainly didn't teach you that in the the study you did to get the qualifications. That was never part of the syllabus. So you kind of learn the hard way.
Mm. Having, and I'm thinking about that must have been, I know it not, it must have been, it was, you know, a
Yeah,
real tough and challenging, whoa, do you know what I mean? Time in your family's lives. So, how did you and what did you do in order to find the strength to start all over again?
yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was just looking for other things to do, maybe start a new business, find something different to do. I couldn't really find anything as much. Um, and it was a very tough time because we kind of hit the ugly side of the debt. You know, when you're in property, you borrow, you leverage, and it might allow you to buy loads of houses, but if you can't pay them, the mortgages back and the tenants are not paying, then you hit the ugly side of debt. So you got like the bailiffs and your back is to the wall. So financially, it was very challenging. Um, I found out some information about how money was working and how banks worked, and it got me very angry because I was quite I'd say to myself quite a good broker. So I got a lot of people in debt, and I was very curious about well, how is this so, and how does this work, and so I kind of channeled that anger into learning, and then I decided, well, I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I made financially, so let me start to teach people how to protect themselves and protect their assets and not go through all this mess. Because people commit suicide over debt. It's not nice. And the way the law is set up, they just don't care really. It's very much like, look, if you don't pay, we're going to take what you got. Um, and bankruptcy is not nice in terms of they will really drill down and take whatever you have. Um, and when you understand how the system actually works, it can work out very one sided, shall we say. So I was like, well, we got to learn some rules here. And I think a lot of people, we're not taught about money at schools, we're not taught about money at work, we're not taught about money by our parents. We know a little bit, but we don't know how things work, what money even is, how we're taught about history, we're not taught about banking. We don't know how banks work and the process and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I said, well, I'm going to set up a financial education business um, to start educating people to let them learn about how money actually works and how to protect themselves and their loved ones. So that was called Wealth Guardian Education, and it's still going online now, just allowing people to really understand. I'd call it the alternative financial education. So just learning what's going on and how to protect yourself um, in the right way, shall we say. So I did that for a while. Then I did other things, just to kind of develop my skill set, mainly around sales and marketing. Uh, and then here I am now, pretty much, doing estate planning and operating in inheritance tax and trusts, really. So trust, my love for trust kind of stemmed from that experience. So it was, that's the kind of the bright side around it.
Mm. And what I'm finding is that it's so important for those in secondary school, even from primary school, to be taught about financial education and how money works. Do you know what I mean? Because that is a one life skill that we all need, regardless of anything. Do you know what I mean? That we all
Yeah,
need that skill. And what I find is that wills, trust, it seems to be trending now. Do you know what I mean? Everywhere that I'm looking, I'm seeing every information about wills and about trust. And also, when I turned the big, wonderful number 50, okay,
okay.
last year,
Yes.
that age really does something. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
really, I'm not even going to say something cliche, put things into perspective, but it really made me reflect upon my life.
yeah,
Yeah. and reflecting upon legacy. And what I love about my mother and my father is that we speak openly
Yeah.
about legacy,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and putting things into place. So when I looked at your bio, I saw ONCE once, wills and trust. You know, I've got it written down here, and I said,
Yeah.
oh, wonder once means. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I said I must ask Richard.
That's the story behind it was doing my research, about money and stuff. I came across a story. I think it's David Rockefeller. Um, and it was I remember reading this newspaper article. It was about 100 years old, and he made at the time about $300 million in a year, and no tax. And so the reporter asked him, "Well, how did you make all that money, not pay a penny of tax?" And so the response was, "Well, the secret to wealth is to own nothing and control everything." And that's where once that's the acronym: own nothing, control everything. And the reason why I set that up as a business because our emphasis is to obviously is to teach people how in the Western world. And I say the Western world because of how our financial system is set up. Um, if you own something, you're going to get taxed, and they can take it. So the wealthy don't really own, but they do control. But we're taught to own. If you don't own anything, you're not you're not wealthy. But that's not really how the game is played. So hence why I named it once as own nothing, control everything.
I think it's such a powerful company name and as well as what it stands for. So my thing is about I was doing a little bit of research about wills and everything. Just went online.
Yeah.
One in three that's over who are over 50 years old do not have a will. And I was like, wow, one in
Wow.
three do not have a will.
Yeah.
So why is legacy planning important for you?
You're right when you say that, our kind of history does kind of set a tone for, where we are now. Um, it's important to me because we're not exposed, as a community, we're not really exposed to real education about wealth and money. And when you look at all the stats, we're always in the bottom, but we have a lot of wealth. We produce a lot of wealth, but, we're consumers. So I want to put a stop to that. I want to be able to hand, my children to be able to buy assets, and I can help them and change that narrative. I'm first generation born here. Um, so that's the first thing. The second thing is my vision for this business is to put lazy solicitors out of business. And I said it very boldly because um, this industry is not regulated. So you can, and everyone seems to think that because you've got a title of a solicitor and you speak a certain way and have, all these titles and everything else, that you must know what you're talking about. But they're general practitioners, unless they're specialists, just like doctors. And if you got a specialist challenge medically, you don't go to a GP, you go to a specialist to get to the root of the answer. But the problem we have is we don't know what we don't know. And so the amount of wills that I see of people with sufficient wealth with the wrong documents, um, and regardless of the community, it's very common. We go to solicitors thinking that they know what they're talking about, and they're getting the wrong advice. Um, and ultimately, there's something called probate, and I've read this in the book, so it's not even like me attacking solicitors, but you do the will very poorly, very basic. And because it says will, we think it's doing its job, but it can be catastrophic for the family if it's done incorrectly. And probate is a money spinner. It really does make a lot of money for these companies. So my role, why is for this business, is to get rid of lazy solicitors. Number one, number two, to really prioritize education to the family, um, to the matriarchs, the patriarchs, so they can help their loved ones to create generational wealth and keep it in the family for more than 3 generations, just like the wealthy do. But without education, we can't achieve that. So, um, part of my ethos, part of the pillars of this business is that we must educate ourselves to the highest levels possible, so we can share that knowledge in the best way, in a easy to understand way to whoever wants to listen, so they can make an informed decision to help their family and to stop the, I don't want to say the greed, but to stop the, the greed, 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 the mistakes and to get rid of the heartache and the challenges that can happen through poor planning. Um, so, uh, as much as I write wills, we're actually an inheritance tax and trust specialists. So wills are just another tool for us to help families. But beyond writing wills, the challenge today is inheritance tax. That's what's going to eat into people's wealth. And a general will writer can't really give you tax advice, and that's the problem. So you'll just get a bog standard document, so it ticks their box. But if people don't understand about inheritance tax and they're not getting education because there's not much of it out there, then they don't know to challenge their advisors. They don't know to ask the right questions to get the right advice. And then people treat wills like it's a commodity, like a tin of baked beans or a pack of eggs. I can get the same thing in Tesco's, Lidl, Marks and Spencer's, and because it says eggs in the box or baked beans in the box, and I'm going to compete on price, but I don't get to the root of, well, what is this doing? What is this document trying to solve? So everyone's situation is different. Everyone's family dynamics is different. And if you don't have a will, the government gives you their own version, which may not be what you want. So we're trying to eliminate that. And we have a 100-year vision to educate as many families as possible to stop this problem of lack of knowledge and poor decision making because of lack of knowledge. That's really the emphasis of what we're doing.
It's absolutely commendable what you're doing and your vision, your 100-year vision is to ensure that people are equipped with the knowledge and they are empowered to make the right decisions. And I think that is absolutely brilliant. I salute you for doing that because we need that information. Because as you just said there, that if you don't put things into place, the government will decide what is best for you. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you imagine that?
Yeah. It's not good. Um, it's not good.
Mm. Oh boy. So I want to say thank you, Richard, because as we're coming to an end, yeah, already,
Really? No. Gosh, that seems too soon.
I'm telling you, um, your long story short about, your early beginnings, um, building a business from the ground up, building many businesses from the ground up. Yeah. Seeing a business unravel, okay, going through turmoil with regards to bankruptcy and all of whatever that would bring with it, okay,
Yeah.
but then reinventing yourself, okay, still in business and
Yeah.
giving back to your community.
Uh,
What are the key takeaways that you would like people to remember about your long story short?
I think okay. Number one, I didn't know I was an entrepreneur when I started this journey. Right, I was very much an academic. I left university at 28, age 28. I was doing a PhD. Um, I was very much a bookworm. I was like, yeah, to make money, I've got to study hard and accumulate loads of qualifications. Right, so that was my mentality as my paradigm. Only, and I got married young at 24. So I was like, yes, I've got to be responsible and make money. So I went into sales, in financial sales. Um, and I just thought hard work, that's all I knew. I worked hard to get my qualifications. So I thought, well, I see my mum working hard. I just assumed the harder you work, the better life would be, which is far from the truth. And I've also believed the more qualifications I accumulate, the more money I get paid, which in this country is a load of rubbish. So leaving university at age 28, uh, having the same wage as someone who's left at age 21 or 22, I'm like very demoralized here. Like, what's going on? You're not recognized for what unless you're in an industry specific to what you're studying, and they need your particular skill set. So that was the first thing that really shifted my mindset. Then I read a book when my first child was my wife was pregnant with her first child, called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I've learned that, oh well, wealthy people have businesses. So I thought, oh, I want to be wealthy. It's quite funny. My goal, I was 28 at the time, and my goal was to have £1 million by 30. Like, yeah, okay, 2 years, but that was my goal. And reading that book, devoured that book, and I was like, right, that's why I set up two companies to start a mortgage business. And I literally quit my job and went into the property game as well. So I just thought I'd learn business. I've not taught business. I just let me learn it. I didn't know I was a risk taker. I didn't know I was like impulsive in making decisions. Um, and yeah, my mindset's very much like, I will study something. I will get to the root of it. Quitting was not an option because one thing my mum taught me was winners never quit and quitters never win. So I just don't like to quit. I have to find a way, and I'm always striving and working hard to get somewhere. So for me, it was about building skills, developing skills, learning how to sell, learning how to communicate better, um, and unraveling my mindset of being an academic to understanding that, oh, actually, you need to be a people person. You need to know how to speak to people. Bearing in mind that I'm a very big introvert. Like probably people say, "Oh, I've never believed that," but I am. I'm happy to talk to people, but I'm very comfortable in my own space. I can be in by myself and just read a book or listen to music, and I don't need to be. I've got all the energy and happiness I need in my own space. Um, so when I realized that I enjoy solving problems, I've always enjoyed solving problems. I enjoy teaching, and that's always been my skill set. I realized what my purpose is is to teach, and I realized that my purpose in life and my mission is to teach financial education. So once I realized that, and I enjoy that, and I can do that with my eyes closed, I get energy from just teaching and speaking and educating. Then I realized, well, I want to live a life where I can fulfill a mission and help as many people as I can. And obviously, if I can help as many people as I can, then I believe that I will get rewarded for that as well. So that's how I realized I was an entrepreneur. And I don't like politics. I don't like I really avoid confrontation. Um, the whole workplace situation just didn't really vibe well with me. I don't like being limited. There's 24 hours in a day. I don't believe in exchanging my time for money. I'd rather exchange value for money. So when I learn all these principles, I'm like, well, I'm going to apply it. I'm going to learn and develop and just get better and better every day. So that's really what I enjoy doing. And so that's why I'm, you know, making mistakes, learning how to solve a problem. It doesn't matter if you are the biggest drug dealer, you're still a business person. Not that I'm advocating selling drugs, I'm just saying, but they're still skillful business people, whether you like it or not. Or if I'm Mr. Traditional business owner running a big, Fortune 500 company, you solve problems every day. You deal with people every day. You have to empower people. You have to motivate. You have to look at what problems are there and solve them. That's what we do. We solve problems, and we bring products to the marketplace to help solve people's problems. So I like to say that I'm a painkiller, not a vitamin. What can I do to help people? And then now in my world, it is financial education to eliminate ignorance and free people from that pain of sacrifice versus the pain of regret. Let's do something about it. Um, so I think being able to apply my skill set of reading and studying and learning, and then converting that into information that's at a level that people can just understand is, and doing that day in day out, and even doing things that I hate doing. Because another thing about entrepreneurship is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Um, and you still got to go forward, and you still got to think big, and you still got to not be certain that things will work out, even if you don't know how they'll work out, and be comfortable living like that every single day, and being aware of your weaknesses and your faults, and trying to either adjust or adapt or find the positives in everything that's going on. So that's the life of a certainly for me of an entrepreneur. And I wouldn't change that. I love that, and it's just pushing to be better, and fulfilling this mission that I know God has called me to fulfill. So my headstone will say, father of two, husband, um, and helped or left a legacy for generations to come. That to me, that's what it's all about. So I think, and I want to live life on my terms. I don't want to live life in a bubble or in a rat race, thinking I just get up to go to work, to come home, to watch someone else make money, to get up again and do that. I can't do that. I have to make an impact. And so I'm a little bit of a outlier like that. I just kind of challenge my situation. So that's my long story short. It's very much um, striving to be better, um, challenging situations where I can, and helping others along the way to do better in their lives, encourage them in their lives, share lessons that's learned, being humble around others who I can learn from. Um, I don't really care if you're 18 or 80. If you got something that I need information wise, I'll shut my mouth and listen and learn and humble myself and just learn to just things like that to grow. So that's who I am. Um, it's quite strange becoming an entrepreneur, but that's what I enjoy doing and helping. And other things replacing myself. So being a leader, leadership is huge in my world. I think we need more leaders. To me, the biggest leader, or my favorite leader, and one of the best leaders I've ever known is Jesus Christ. And when you look at his life, in the 3 year ministry that he had, and even if his life up to that, I'm like, well, I've got so much I can learn, and so let me try and even if I can do a smidgen of what he achieved as from a leadership perspective, then I'll class myself as being very happy. So that's really me, and I don't like talking about myself, to be honest with you. So that would be my two pence worth of my long story short. And
Thank you, Richard, for sharing your insights. I definitely have been a student listening to you. Do you get what I mean? As well as reaffirming and hearing about the importance of legacy planning. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I always go on about with my family members, and there was a recent post that you shared on LinkedIn about, I think it was. It's either a post that you shared about a podcast that you done, and I shared it, I reposted it,
okay.
and one of my good friends commented to say this is really good, like what you're doing is really, really good. So yeah, keep on, as my dad will say, keep on in. Do you know what I mean? And thank you so much for gracing the, the
Oh,
long
thank you.
story short podcast
I'm
couch.
honored, and again, thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it.